It's a new day. Yes, it is. Hello, everyone. I'm Colin Tessier of WrestleZone.com, joined by John Clark to talk about a very special episode of Monday Night Raw. John and I were talking before the show went on the air, and I already know we have very different opinions about this. I literally have tears in my eyes. John's giving me crap off the air because he's thinking it's not a beautiful thing, or at least it's not as maybe not as beautiful as I'm thinking it is right now. I don't even care what happens next, everybody. Like, Big E is the WWE champion. And yes, all right, there's plenty of like things not great about this, and we'll get into it. We'll talk about it. Like, I can firmly admit, like, it's not a perfect moment. All right, it's not absolutely perfect, and very few things in wrestling are. But my gosh, Big E's a WWE champion. This is exactly what we needed. Although the execution was not great, I'm going to hold on to the fact that it was a beautiful moment. We're going to talk all about it. But real quick, before we do, just want to remind you all that this show, like everything we do here, is available on all of our streaming platforms, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Podcast, whatever it may be. We've got you covered. So leave a like and subscribe. Boy, the comments already coming in. Herman Carson, congratulations, Big E. And first and foremost, yes, congratulations to Big E. This man deserves this so much. I've been wanting this for him for so long. I'm a huge, huge fan of Big E, of the performer, of the person that he at least seems like. I just already agree that he deserves it. Nestor Chris thinks she called it as, I think this had appeared to be at least a possibility. Now, John, let's walk through this here for a minute. Where we had thought we were going to get Bobby Lashley defending the title against Randy Orton at Extreme Rules, and we were supposed to get a Raw tag title match this week, and then on SmackDown they announced, no, we're going to get Lashley and Orton on Raw for the title. So then, the winds of change started brewing there. And then I think it was earlier today, Fightful Select reporting that Big E would be on Monday Night Raw, and shortly thereafter, Big E literally tweeted, "I intend to cash in tonight." And then the internet collectively lost its mind. Everyone's like, "Are they serious? Is he going to cash in? Is he going to cash in successfully?" And he did. Like they had set this up all night long. We did get Lashley versus Orton. It was a good match. I enjoyed it. Lashley won, pretty fair and square. A pay-per-view level match in its own right there. And then during a post-match beatdown, Bobby tweaked his leg. Big E's music hits. He comes down. He kicks out of the spear that had just put Randy Orton down. So they're in itself looking pretty darn good there. And then he hits the big ending for the victory. He celebrates with a New Day. Now, I'm going to run through some of these comments here. Nestor saying he's not surprised at all, but she's still happy. Michael Campos saying no one's more deserving. Congratulations. Let's see. So many people chiming in here, and I appreciate you. Gavin Coombs saying so happy for Biggie. Hopefully he does what he said he wants. Brings his surname back. Biggie Langston. Robert D. Fleece of our team here is very, very passionate about that. He wants to see Biggie get his name back. So that it would be Biggie Langston, the WWE champion there. Now, of course, part of the narrative here is that AEW Dynamite defeated Raw in the demographic rating last week, and a lot of the narrative has been that Raw would do something drastic to match that, or to counter it, to respond to it. So then when they moved the title match up to Raw in the first place, some people were like, "Oh, okay, that's something." And then they announced some other things. A U.S. title open challenge where Jeff Hardy accepted it. They announced that just shortly before. I think it was like 5 o'clock or so. And then they announced Charlotte Flair. Like they clearly tried to load up the card, and then you factor in the title match there. Obviously, we'll keep talking about it. But John, I want to hear your thoughts. And then because I don't want to keep like hammering home on it here. But I'm sitting here expressing the fact that, or in my opinion, this is a beautiful thing. We got DJ saying he deserves it, waiting for a Kofi heel turn. I mean, they could have done some things to kind of set up the next step here, but they decided to go with a very happy closing moment of Big E celebrating with New Day, and I like that. And David Blakowski saying, well-deserved Big E deserves a big time. All of these comments saying Big E deserves it, and I don't think you disagree with that. I imagine you would agree that Big E deserves it. I imagine you're less than thrilled with the execution. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, so you're right about both of those. I definitely think he deserves it. I mean, from the moment that we saw him win Money in the Bank, I think we kind of knew that it wasn't going to be Roman Reigns, clearly, that he was going to cash in on. Um, it's interesting that I didn't take this into consideration. I mean, obviously, we all know that tonight is the first Monday Night Football game. combine that with the fact that Dynamite had a better demo, which, I mean, I get it, but still the overall rating wasn't really anywhere close. But I get that the advertisers and stuff look at the demo. I get that. But the fact of the matter is that they wanted something big. Uh, I'll get to the execution part in a minute about what I didn't like, but I want to point out that when they kind of set this up earlier today and did exactly what they said they were going to do is a part of what I don't like about the execution. The fact that it was a quite obvious attempt to draw eyeballs to the screen, and of course, we'll see if it worked tomorrow. They might I think if they maintain a rating of what they got last week, that would be a win because usually they would drop on the first Monday night game of the year. But I think the fact that they pretty much said what they were going to do and then they actually did it takes takes a little bit of it away from me. Not to mention the fact that Lashley just kind of like we've seen him have matches over the past couple months where he's kicked out of numerous finishers. Biggie hits one finisher, he doesn't kick out, and that's the end of it. I just, and I think we're on the path to getting a rematch between these two at Extreme Rules. I think that's what you have to do here. Uh, people have been, I've already seen people saying that well, this isn't going to last because Goldberg and Lashley are going to have a rematch. What we already know their rematch is likely going to be non-title. Goldberg already said he doesn't want the title. That feud is fine. That feud isn't going anywhere. It's intriguing to have Biggie win. I mean, he has been holding steady in the top 10 of our Universal rankings. He was number 9 this week. We'll see tomorrow where he. I mean, obviously he's going to jump up from 9. We'll see how far he lands tomorrow at 4. But uh, you have an intriguing aspect of you could have Bobby and MVP just go after Orton and Riddle, but that doesn't seem to be the direction they're going to take after tonight. But all in all, the exciting factor. I mean, obviously there are tons of fellow employees, tons of fellow superstars from more than just WWE, AEW, and everybody commenting already saying, nobody deserves this more than Biggie. I mean, he's a loyal guy. He's one of the first NXT champions, and then he stuck there with Ziggler and AJ Lee for a while, and then he's kind of played second fiddle up until recently when they finally gave him his own singles run. And when they finally did, I mean, it started off good, but then he kind of won the contract, and then he was kind of stolen out in recent weeks. But then, of course, with this, the momentum, I mean, he's back up at the top. And I also want to point out that Andrew Zarian, we all know who he is. He's a very good, and reliable reporter. If you remember a couple months ago, the draft was originally supposed to be September 13th tonight, and he actually broke right after Raw that the original plan was for Biggie to cash in on the Raw draft date, which would have been tonight, and they just stuck with tonight anyway. I assume because it was the first Monday night game. We don't know why, but the fact of the matter is he cashed in, he won. You can't argue with the fact that the execution was at least 50-50. I mean, what I'm trying to say is there's arguments to be made by both sides
Absolutely.
that can be reliable.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with it at this point, but like you said, and somebody commented to say that they didn't really look forward to next week or tease anything. I really think it's important that after this Bobby Lashley rematch, which is likely ends, uh, the draft is right there then. I mean, they got 1 week until the draft. So, I mean, really, we have no idea where this is going next. And I think that makes for intriguing TV.
Oh, absolutely. And kind of on that note, Hermit, of talking about the brand aspect here, Hermit Dakar is saying, what if Biggie has to drop the title because he's technically a member of SmackDown? No, that they're definitely not that strict about the brand split. He's probably, I would assume, moving to Raw because of this, and whether he gets quote unquote.
I do think he will bring the title to SmackDown at least this Friday.
Yeah.
I think to kind of put a bow on it,
Yeah, that would make sense. To be a little abrupt to have him just kind of leave like that. But, again, so many comments. There's definitely a lot of people have a lot to say about this. Again, definitely, even though WWE had been pretty clearly teasing Reigns and Biggie, that was kind of a red herring where, Lashley versus Biggie had been, again, at least an option all along. And so, the fact we got here tonight, not all that surprising, at least in that sense. Obviously you have two world champions. It's kind of like a 50-50 shot of which one you're going to cash in on. So Emmanuel Frega saying he doesn't care if the execution was all wrong. Big deserves it. Congrats. And I would agree. We will talk a little more about some of the less than ideal aspects of it, but it's definitely a great thing, great way to close the show, and I liked it a lot here. Sean Nakoff saying he would have rather had Big E defeat Roman Reigns. I mean, I think at this point, I view them very similarly. I think Roman, they have both been doing great. There's no doubt about that. For me, although I would say before tonight, I had thought that that Roman and Lashley were in the same boat, dominant champions. You'd want to see whoever dethroned them have a pretty lengthy build up to that, to really build them up like that. Whereas Money in the Bank is a little more short term. But even then, I was hoping to see a little more of a build up, having maybe Sean, John, you're talking about. Sorry, you're talking about the draft there, and you could have maybe Big E get drafted. Maybe so. I don't know. I think there's some options and any number of things. But again, the big takeaway is that this is a very good thing by and large here. Raul Taker Sanchez saying kudos to WWE for making Big E the champ finally. By and large, seems like a lot of people are happy about it. Likewise, DC Hunt saying that Raw needs some fresh ideas. Having Big E as a champion is a start to that, and I'll definitely agree. They need some fresh ideas, some fresh faces, some fresh energy. Where like Big E, obviously, it's like energy personified, like fun babyface meets legit badass in some ways. Like I think if this is more than a traditional reign, I think this is a very, very good thing. And that's kind of the next thing here, where if part of the thinking is that this is a ratings pop, trying to like pop a number, how long will we have the title? Several comments were predicting that Big E could drop the title at Extreme Rules, just to kind of, again, have a little reign like that. I hope that's not the case. We've seen Bobby Lashley have this dominant reign for months now. And while this did feel abrupt, of having Big E come over to Raw and then cash in, and just the way it all went down, it did feel very, I would say, reactive. We always.
I mean, the fact that they had this match advertised for Extreme Rules and moved it to tonight just proves that it was a reactionary move. I don't think you can argue that, because they don't just advertise pay-per-view matches and then, I mean, they do not deliver a lot of the time because they just magically disappear. But to advertise it tonight of all nights, you knew something was going down. And then, of course, this morning, Big E pretty much says, "Hey, I'm coming to Raw and I'm cashing in." And everybody's like, "Oh, well, he's going to get screwed over, or he's not actually going to cash it in." But there was always that you got to watch to see if he does.
Exactly.
And I actually thought they might have started the show with this, because when they all came out at the beginning of the show, I was like, oh, they're going to start to try to keep eyeballs, because, Raw starts at 8, but the game doesn't start till like 8:20, 8:30. Right. So, you're trying to keep those people, but we'll see.
I think that seemed to be the case, but then I think they start off the show in a hot way, where you had Lashley, Orton, and Big E all out there, and that kind of left you wondering, like, well, who is going to leave the title? And you're going to have to tune in at that point, presumably for the main event. For that. So kind of similarly here, we're talking about the pay-per-view, talking about Raw. Sean Nakoff saying that Big E should have waited till Extreme Rules for the cash-in, would have been a sweeter moment. I mean, I think there's definitely something said for that. And I remember when I was a kid, I used to love like the pay-per-view cash-ins, where like I can think of CM Punk cashing in, Edge cashing in here and there, and like it creates this really fun moment on pay-per-view. But at the same time, having it on Raw, again, we're talking about trying to boost the numbers and infuse more fun and energy and just enjoyment overall into Raw here. And this was a great way to do that, where you again, even though they had Big E announced ahead of time, pretty much giving it away. And then I think Big E announced in the morning, and it may have been like mid-afternoon, WWE like confirmed it, saying, oh, he's saying he's going to cash in. Again, not ideal in that sense, but it definitely was a fun way to add a very, very fun and wholesome moment to the end of Raw, and I will not knock them for that. But now we're talking about what's next, and we've got a couple of comments about that. Steven Chambers wondering if we get a triple threat match. I mean, I could see it, but at the same time, Orton lost fair and square. Like, MVP got involved a little bit, but otherwise not really. Like, this was all not 100% clean, but I would say like 85%. Like, yeah, MVP was there. Yeah, he interviewed a little bit, but like Orton doesn't have a real big claim to a title rematch, other than being the fact that he's Randy Orton. And as he said tonight, he's Randy freaking Orton. So if they want to go with that in storyline, they could easily get there, but at the same time, outside of that, Jess Mata saying he hopes that Drew McIntyre doesn't pop back in the title scene, and I don't want to say unfortunately, but the fact of the matter is, Bobby Lashley no longer being the champion, that would free up Drew McIntyre to to challenge for the title again, because that stipulation wouldn't be accurate. So I feel like that is really only a matter of time in some way. Hopefully not right away. I think there's meat on the bone with Lashley. You could do Big E versus Randy Orton. That'd be pretty darn cool in itself. So yeah, I mean, there's just I like this a lot. We could talk more about it a little bit, but I hope that he gets a good reign with it. It's I've been sitting here for a couple weeks now where I wanted to see him have a better run with a briefcase, again, to kind of build us up a little better. But at the same time, for the shock value, it worked. Again, especially if we're going for in the vacuum where you don't even worry about what happens next, it's a great moment. But likewise, Raul Taker Sanchez saying that he hopes Big E's reign lasts longer than Nikki ASH. And Nikki ASH cashed in on Charlotte Flair. That was the night after Money in the Bank, I believe. So, and she only had it for roughly a month. So that's, call it about a month of a reign. So, I definitely hope that's the case. To me, not to differentiate it, but this is the WWE Championship. Like, this is in theory, the company's top prize. So, I want to see them have a little more of a solid reign there. But yeah, definitely the big question here is what does happen next. And, to me, this does create, at least we're seeing one comment here, some speculation about the New Day. We got one comment earlier about, maybe Kofi Kingston turning heel. Now Jim Green saying, do you think they'll have Woods play the jealous angle, turn him heel? Because he's the only one that has not won the title. I mean, I guess that begs the question, John, what does this mean for the New Day? Because now, in theory, Big E will be back on Raw for now, and the New Day's back on. The New Day has been on Raw for now. Are we going to see the New Day reunited as a group here, even with Big E the champion, or are they going to split up again? Like, what do you think will/should happen?
What do I think will happen? I think that Big E will stay on Raw, and I think that, because people have already been contemplating, well, what if you switch the champions and have Roman go to Raw and Big E go to SmackDown? Like, Fox is not giving up Roman Reigns anytime soon. So as far as I think, as what will happen, I think that New Day, as far as Kofi and Xavier, I think they're going to go to SmackDown. I really do, while Big E stays on Raw. Now, do I think that Xavier should be turning and challenging for the title? No, that wouldn't make sense to me. Kofi, maybe. Xavier, he's never really been a viable threat for a title. I think King of the Ring might be his opportunity to make a name for himself. That's what he's been looking forward to for 2 years. He has to at least be in it, I would hope.
Yeah.
So we'll see what goes on there, but I don't think they're going to break up. I don't think they should break up. I think they should just continue what they're doing now and kind of go their own separate ways, while always, doing those quick appearances every couple months to just show that, they're still unified.
Yeah, and I mean, in one way, I mean, I guess I will say, maybe as a compromise, hopefully we'll have the New Day back together for like this. It's a little less than a month at this point, but to kind of recreate a little bit of that. I don't know if nostalgia is the right word, because they're not that old, but you know what I mean, where you're having the New Day back together, that wholesome reunion tour there for, call it roughly a month, and then the draft. And although it might be a little disappointing to see the New Day split up again, they're not splitting up. Again, as you said, John, they could just continue doing as they have been, and I think that'd be fine too. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot they can do here. I firmly hope that this will be a solid reign for Big E. I could sit here and talk about this all night, but I guess to put a bow on it, I like this a lot. The execution was not perfect. If I had my druthers, I would say I would have preferred them to build it up a little more and not announce it like that ahead of time. Because that definitely did feel a little abrupt. But this is a very, very good thing. I think it's good for Raw. It adds excitement, and just Big E. Everyone loves Big E. Like, it feels like he's a very, very kind of universally liked guy from fans, from wrestlers, just all around. So I think that's a very good thing. Not to say that Bobby Lashley wasn't by any means. I'm saying, like, it's literally babyface and heel. Like, everybody loves Big E. You're supposed to love Big E. So you're supposed to feel so happy when he does win. And people were happy when Bobby Lashley won as well. But it is a little different. So this was great. I liked it a lot. Not going to try and focus too much on the negatives here, but could have been done better, yes, but I like it a lot. So Something that we were talking about this very, very nice thing that wasn't exactly perfect. Another kind of mixed bag of a thing was Alexa Bliss had a segment with Charlotte Flair. Now we know they'll be facing off at Extreme Rules. Charlotte defeated Shayna Baszler in I guess you should say, a championship contender match, which is really stupid. It's just a non-title match, but a good match. And at very least, John, I'm sure you know that I'm thrilled about this. This is pretty much one of the final nails in the coffin, seemingly, of Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. Nia Jax basically cost Shayna the match here, just as Shayna cost Nia last week. So WWE officially announced they will be facing off next week in a singles match. I would hope that will be the end of it. Just move on, please. Please, just do it. Charlotte had a good line where she said that Shayna won't be able to reach her level while she's carrying around dead weight. Pretty clearly saying that about Jax. So this was a very good match, and to me, it was only bittersweet because it could have been even better had Baszler been booked better, where it's like, she'd been handled as a legitimate star. She could have felt like a really big deal by now, whereas she's, for even just this year alone, she's taken loss after loss after loss. So then you put her in there with Charlotte Flair. Yeah, it's a great match, but like you don't really think she's going to win, and that's something that WWE unfortunately does more often than not here. But the big story came out from that. So Charlotte won, Nia Jax distracted her, and as Eddie Zahara is saying, the crowd was hyped up for Alexa Bliss. The crowd was hyped up all night tonight. That definitely made tonight even more fun. But specifically, yes, Charlotte Flair won the match. Alexa Bliss comes down. She has a present, literally a gift box in her hands, and says she wants to give Charlotte a present for accepting her title match. And in the box, John, is a Lily doll. But it's not just a Lily doll. Charlie doll, which is it is a Lily doll that it looks like Charlotte Flair. It's got a robe, it's got a blonde wig. John, I think to exaggerate, I'll say a half hour, but within the hour, this thing was on WWE Shop, as Nestor is pointing out.
What? I missed that.
Oh yeah, look it up. It's hysterical. It's $40. It's on WWE Shop.
That's more expensive than the regular one.
My gosh, yeah.
Regular one's only $30.
And Alexa basically said, everyone needs a friend, even a narcissistic biatch like you, if pardon my language. But yeah, I thought this was fun. Weirdly enough, I don't know if they were trying to, but they got a yes chant going, which is very weird because Daniel Bryan doesn't even go here anymore. That was kind of strange. Again, it felt intentional, but Charlotte quickly shut it down, where basically I think Alexa was trying to give her the gift, and Charlotte said no, and Alexa said yes, and they did that like 2 or 3 times, and they're very clearly kind of setting that up there. And in the end, Charlotte took the gift and said she'll give Alexa one of her action figures once she gets locked up in the padded room. Yikes. And Alexa, they fought, and then Alexa stood tall. I'm looking forward to this match in the pay-per-view. I said it when they first kind of teased this match a couple weeks ago. It's very, very fun clash of personalities. It's the Queen and this like twisted Bliss fiend-like character for Alexa Bliss. I think it's a lot of fun. I'm very much rooting for Alexa Bliss. And yes, that's not great for the title because it's changed hands several times here, even since Money in the Bank. But Alexa Bliss deserves it. She's overdue. I want to see it happen. I've been hoping it's going to happen literally since January, if not longer. So I hope to see that happen next year. Rules. Throw a stipulation in there to make it even more interesting, but it doesn't even really need it. It's just that their personalities are that strong. Nestor Chris thinks she thinks Alexa might win. What are you thinking about the Charlie doll, about Charlotte and Alexa, and about their upcoming match at the pay-per-view, John?
Oh boy, this is I did look it up, and of course it is there. It's $39.99, very intriguing. I think Charlotte will win at least the first match between the two. Although there's a WWE doesn't really use the hometown effect very often, but Alexa Bliss is from Columbus and Extreme Rules is in Columbus, so it's that. I mean, you have to at least think about that. I guess Charlotte is the heel here from what I've been. I mean, it's hard to really say who's who in the story. Not that it matters, but I gotta say Charlotte wins at least the first one. As far as tonight goes, yeah, I mean they did pretty good at building it up as far as with what they have to work with, and then the Shane and Nia stuff finally putting that to rest next week. I know you're happy about that.
Oh yeah.
I really hope Shayna looks dominant. I think Shayna needs to win more than Nia does, so that'll be interesting there. Let's talk about that real briefly here. For that match next week, uh, do you have a preference on who comes out
Oh,
on
I have a
top? I mean, who
preference,
do you
John. I have a
tell me?
very firm preference, and I'm very, very scared, or not scared, concerned, I'll say, that it will be the exact same where WWE never lets Nia Jax, or I should say very, very rarely lets Nia Jax lose cleanly. But my gosh, Shayna Baszler needs to win. Ideally, she'll look dominant in doing so. If not, or even if she does win, have her win there, and then ship her off to SmackDown, fresh coat of paint. She definitely needs it. Have her eventually, face Bianca Belair and even Becky Lynch. I know people. I desperately think that she needs that. Oh my gosh, man! I've been saying it for months. Like she's so good. She deserves so much better than this. And if she loses next week, I will be pretty darn upset because Nia Jax, yeah, she's okay. She's had her chance. She really challenged for a title. I think that was last week, 2 weeks ago. She's had her time and she'll get it again. I'm not saying that. That's fine. But give Shayna a shot. She's been, as I said earlier, booked horribly. I can't even recall the last time she won a match on her own. The loss after loss. Every time it's she and Nia have a tag team match, I think she takes the pin, which is not great. So yeah, we're getting several comments saying that Shayna should win. Herman Carr agreeing as well. Move Nia to AEW. I don't think they'd call her number, but I could be wrong on that one. Friend of the show Nando saying that Shayna he hopes Shayna would win in that case. Another comment saying from Steven saying that one of them has to go to SmackDown. It's got to be Shayna. Not Nia.
One of them's definitely going. Yeah.
Yeah, and for Nia, pretty darn in the WWE's logic sense, pretty easy to just build her back up, give her a couple dominant wins and whatever. But Shayna, I really think we're in a she cannot lose situation where it's she does stick a fork in her. She's just, I don't think you can come back from that. I'm sorry. My gosh, yeah. When they announced that match, my immediate thought was all right, Shayna needs to win, but she still needs to go to SmackDown because I think there's just this very permanent stink of how she's been handled on Raw like that. So I definitely hope to see her go to SmackDown and just, again, get a new lease on her main roster run here. On the flip side, Gavin Coombs saying that we could have Bliss feud with Shayna on Raw, presumably. Possible, but again, I feel like perception is reality. The more we see Shayna on Raw here, the more I at least for myself, I'm thinking of all those losses, all that pretty poor booking. And ironically, part of that extends to SmackDown as well, because when they're the tag champions, they're on both brands. But she has been a Raw superstar for months now. So, yeah, I definitely hope to see that. Nando wondering, again, what about Shayna going to SmackDown, putting her with Becky Lynch, maybe having, maybe even forming a new Four Horsewomen. I don't know about that. I think they could have an alliance of some sort. But yeah, I think that'd be interesting. And obviously we know that Becky Lynch is trying to establish her heel character. We can talk a little more about the draft if we have time later. But I mean, among others, I think Shayna Baszler definitely at the top of my list. People I want to see move brands across both Raw and SmackDown. I think she very much needs it. But speaking of which, we had Charlotte Flair, we had this match, then we had the Alexa Bliss bit here, and we also, I think we had 4 women's matches tonight, which is a very, very good bounce back from the episode of SmackDown with 0, so that's a very, very good thing. And that's one of the perks of having a 3-hour show is that you have time. When you have a 2-hour show, sometimes Robert and I were talking about on Saturday, would you rather have kind of a fairly meaningless 5-minute match, or I hate to say it, but if that's what gets cut, that's what gets cut. But here, you've got 3 hours. My gosh, you better make use of it and utilize the very, very talented women's division. And they did. They had 4 matches like that. So we saw Charlotte versus Shayna. We saw Doudrop defeat Eva Marie. Not too much to write home about there. It seemed like a conclusion where Doudrop won, and that was about it. And also, we had a back-to-back series matches of Nikki ASH versus Tamina and Rhea Ripley versus Natalya. They had announced Rhea and Natalya earlier, but then they had backstage brawl and they set up Nikki and Tamina. One downside was they kind of messed up the ending for Nikki and Tamina, where the announcer announced Tamina as the winner, and then Tamina attacked Nikki right after the match, and I was like, okay, and that'd be fine. You could say, oh, she wants to add insult to injury, but then the announcer's like, oh, she's furious. and she was announced as the winner. So a little bit of a hate to say botch, but it was a botch.
Yeah.
And at one point, I think Sean Rossap, a Fightful, tweeted that Nikki had been escorted to the back after her match, and thankfully she seems to be okay. She came back out to ringside, so seemingly nothing too serious there. So that's a very, very good thing. But yeah, Rhea and Nikki, other than that, than the botched ending there, they both won. And I tweeted, "Oh, surely that means they're going to get a title shot." But lo and behold, John, if you remember, Tony Storm and Shotzi Blackheart beat them in a tag team match 3 months ago, and they never got a title shot.
Three times.
I think that was multiple times. So not sure what's going on there, but I guess if I try to stay in the here and now, I'll get tonight. I'm like, all right, they beat them in 2 singles matches. Maybe we get a tag match next week, and then that sets one of our wonderful championship contender matches, and that might set up a title match, maybe. But who knows, man? I don't know. I just want things to make sense. That's all I want. If you're going to have them win like that, make it matter and be like, all right, then you get a title shot, plain and simple. But kind of on that note, Stephen Chambers saying he wants to see more teams in the division, but it also does call Rhea and Nikki future champions. And I think I may have talked about this last week, but because they're definitely getting booked pretty strongly by and large here. Would you think that Rhea and Nikki could be future champions, next champions, or is this just kind of like the flip side of RK Bro, where they're going to implode before they reach that pinnacle?
I think they will probably stay together up until that point. I think Shotzi should be ahead of the line, though. It's very interesting that we don't really have any direction with this division at all. I mean, where do you think we're going here?
I don't know. I mean, ironically, Shayna and Nia were kind of the I don't know, like the foundation of it in a way. They're the 2-time champions. They've been together for like a year, so admittedly not in a good way, but like you could always just kind of like throw them out there and either give them the titles, have them challenge for the titles. Like at least then you kind of know what to expect. I don't know. Like let's think about it. They have Rhea and Nikki ASH. They've got Tony Storm and Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Knox. Heck, maybe give Tony Storm a partner. I think
exactly. It's hard to think,
isn't it? So I guess they could bring people up from NXT. If you think about the draft, I guess you could maybe form new teams in that way by moving people around. I feel like at this point the easiest answer is to say they'll just make some some random teams. Likewise, Stephen Chambers saying Zelina Vega and Carmella could be a good team. I mean, we've seen them kind of join forces on SmackDown a couple of times, so that's something. Although they've both lost pretty much every match they've been in recent months, so they don't have a whole lot of credibility, at least in terms of what have you done for me lately. We know this women's division is very, very talented, but if you're talking about, we're trying to figure out this tag division. But like in a way, you've got Naomi doing nothing as well. I think that's an option. There's a lot they could do. I don't know. Like, maybe after this Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch feud, maybe do Naomi and Bianca. I just don't know. There's a way to maximize a lot of this talent, but I don't know what the best ways are. I mean, I don't know. It's tough. I think that I think it's the tough balance of like you don't want to raid NXT too much, but they've still got a pretty deep division. So maybe bring up some of the top stars there. If you think about Raquel, Io Shirai, and try and just restock this division, because again, even in a single sense and especially the tag team sense, they definitely need it. So, but likewise here. For all take a stand, is wondering if we could form a new 4 horsemen based on the talent we've currently got. I'm assuming you mean like kind of other than the actual group. I mean, I think in theory, I would say Bianca Belair, maybe Rhea Ripley. At least looking forward, like assuming they get better and better and rack up more accomplishments in the next 2-3 years. Bianca, Rhea. Maybe Naomi, but she hasn't been booked that great. Yeah, it's tough. I think the whole appeal of the four horsemen is that they are that damn good, that they are like unmatched, that you can't replace them, you can't follow them, that they'll never be topped. But Nando suggesting Shayna Baszler, Toni Storm, Rhea Ripley, kind of as a trio to complement Becky as like a Ric Flair character. There's something said for that. You move Shayna and Ripley over to SmackDown and have, and that was the thing about the actual Four Horsemen, is that they kind of had some like key members, and then you kind of swap in new members. So maybe don't need a whole group entirely, but I think we're not going to see anything too crazy like that, because in a lot of ways the Four Horsemen have become more of a talking point, not an actual like on-screen thing. So all things put together here, I think the draft will be a big help for the women's division in general, for the singles title scene, for the tag title scene. So
I agree.
Thankfully, we are very, very close to that, literally less than a month here. So speaking of which, I think the draft could be very, very good for the tag division, even though on the Raw side, it's been looking pretty good lately. We had the tag tournament match, which literally took up 1/3 of the show last week, and this week they had an 8-man tag team showdown. I think they're billing it as. It was the New Day and Mansoor along with Mustafa Ali versus AJ Styles, Omos, and Mace and T-Bar. And DJ Tessier is wondering what we think about that Omos babyface pop. I mean, I said it last week, but they almost against all odds. Like this is one of the best examples of someone that they've really treated well, that they have protected, that they have avoided booking stupidly, having him take stupid losses. He looks dominant, and then very organically you kind of have him get popular. Last week he kind of briefly squares off with the WWE champion, and it feels like a big deal. Like this is fundamental wrestling, basic wrestling at its finest, where it's just like that's how you make new stars, something that WWE has been criticized for a long time. And not to say almost will be the next big thing necessarily, but he literally is a big dude. I think this is cool. People are liking him. He got a big pop, as Raul is pointing out. He got a big pop when he faced off Lashley. So maybe as a long-term kind of thing. I don't know how long-term, but I think all the potential is there, where he's got the size, he's got the look and the presence. Like they've got some with him, and if they continue to do as they have been and really kind of keep doing, make him look strong, I think the sky's the limit. I mean, not just he's not a fan, but I think he's. I don't say he's. I don't. If not great.
They are building him up to be a monster. I think it's that speaks volumes. The fact that they're making him look so good.
Yeah. We're talking about Big E and that not being perfect, but there are plenty of things WWE is doing fairly well right now, and I think Omos is definitely at the top of that list. Getting two, not sure how to think about them comparisons. Herman Takara comparing Omos to the next Big Show, and that could be a good or bad thing. And in a similar way, Steven Chambers saying Omos could be the next Braun Strowman. Yeah, both of those are kind of bittersweet comparisons there. And now just saying he's almost sold on him. Very nice pun there. And just not agreeing that Omos is on the Braun path of
I would agree with that.
The Wyatt family and slowly becoming a breakout star. I could see that, maybe somewhere down the road he faces off against AJ Styles. So yeah, but we're talking, a while down the road here, but I think he could be pretty darn good. So otherwise here, one big thing we had tonight was the United States Championship match between Damian Priest and Jeff Hardy, who 1 week ago had been relegated to the 24/7 title scene. Speaking of which, briefly, a tangent here, Drake Maverick is back on Raw. I talked about it a bit last week, but he made an unexpected cameo last week where he confronted, I guess, for lack of a better word, R-Truth, and the one of the great, maybe the second greatest 24/7 champion of all time, Drake Maverick. Tonight, he was helping R-Truth and Akira Tozawa try and scheme and get the title back from Reggie. And this popped me. Like Drake was dressed in a suit. He's got his accent. Like, I don't know, it's fun. Like we were saying about Reggie when he won the title, just adding re-adding these characters to the scene. Just keep it fresh. That's all I want. For months, all we had was Truth and Akira and a couple of things here and there, other than the gang of contenders constantly chasing the champion. But you have Reggie as a champion, you bring Drake back. I think that's pretty darn fun. Not just saying that Reggie's days are numbered. I don't think so. Because speaking of numbers, this man continues to freaking set TikTok records. Everybody loves seeing him flip. I think WWE is going to continue to capitalize on that. Not that he needs a championship for that, but I think we're going to continue on with this for at least for now, and hopefully at some point, someday, R-Truth will get his baby back, as Nesha is pointing out here. But yes, Jeff Hardy was back in the title scene here, and that was a very, very good thing. I know, myself included, many people were upset last week when he was, again, relegated to the 24/7 title scene. John, you and I talked about it. I think even before live fans returned, especially after live fans returned, people like Jeff Hardy. All right, this man is a living legend. You cannot take that away from him. He will be a future Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. Former WWE champion, former world champion. And you have to have them in the 24/7 title scene. Not great, but kind of like the women's, having the 4 women's matches tonight. It felt like we kind of listened, because we're like, all right, yeah, that's not great, but how about this? How about we have him in the U.S. title match against our new favorite toy in some ways, Damian Priest, for the U.S. title. So it makes the title look good. It was a good match. I enjoyed it. Again, kind of the present versus in some ways the past, and Jeff Hardy. And Jeff Hardy can still go. All right, this was a very good match. I liked it. And in some ways, I was like, why are we not getting this at the pay-per-view instead of Sheamus and Damian Priest again? But and kind of as we saw earlier on with the WWE title, maybe you could get a triple threat match. I don't know. But again, he lost clean, fair and square. Not too much of a leg to stand on there. But Nesha Kurz saying that it definitely was another great match. I enjoyed it. What do you think about Jeff being in the title scene, and maybe where he goes from here?
I think he needs a change of scenery, whether that be to SmackDown or maybe when the rosters are shaken up enough that it'll be fine if he just stays where he's at now. But I'd like to see him used a little more in high-profile matches and actually win instead of losing every time. I think that's important. I'd like to see him have one more good solo run, and I really hope that he can at least have a relevant feud if it's not for a title.
Yeah, I would agree. And just judging off the fan response tonight, he got a big reaction. People very clearly still rally behind this guy. They like him. Again, he's a legend. And kind of on that note, just wondering if we see Jeff getting inducted twice, once as a solo, once as a Hardy Boy. I mean, I would think so. I mean, he has not been a WWE lifer, but he had a good run. He came back. He left and he came back. I think, and obviously Matt Hardy being in AEW complicates that. 10 years down the road, I think things will be different in that, there'll be less of this animosity of oh, they're in AEW. We don't talk to them anymore. I think you can't necessarily ignore the Hardy Boys legacy as one of the defining teams of the Attitude Era, as one of those teams right up there with Edge and Christian and the Dudley Boys that changed the game. A team that was very much again, featured in the Attitude Era. So, yeah, I think the day will come where Jeff and Matt both will take the place in the Hall of Fame, and I think especially Jeff would be a contender for a single as a singles induction there. So on some ways I'd be surprised if he didn't. That's just how impressive of a legacy he has. So yeah, I definitely think that will be the case at some point, someday.
Absolutely.
But no, I at the very least, title or no title, I would agree with you, John, that I hope to see him have a relevant feud, because for weeks he was doing nothing, and then he was in the 24/7 title scene. Hopefully, kind of coming out tonight, he'll just do something, and whether that's Stephen Chambers saying he'd like to see Jeff team with John Morrison, and I want to see him as a singles guy. We know he can go as a tag team specialist in many ways, but there's a lot more that he can do. So otherwise here, I think we've run through most of the big things. Looking at my notes. Yeah. There was one big story about a certain NXT superstar whose contract is expiring, but I don't want to give that away because we're going to talk about that and all things NXT tomorrow on the NXT post show. But I guess I will say, because it became, I think, official over the weekend, as DJ Cassidy is asking about the newest WWE signee, Olympian Gable Steveson is officially, the contract is signed, and it's the first, I think, NIL contract. It's a new agreement where the college athletes can sign professional agreements like this. So, that's definitely a big get for him. And definitely part of the narrative here is that he's got big shoes to fill, where everyone will quickly compare him to Kurt Angle, or kind of hold him up to that standard, which is impossible to meet. But I think he's very, very talented. Obviously, his wrestling background speaks for itself. You never know. how someone will transition into pro wrestling. It's a crazy world. It's a crazy business. You've got plenty of people that have transitioned. I mean, Chad Gable is great, criminally underrated, and many other people as well. I can't even think of off the top of my head, but I mean, as one of the very, very best amateur wrestlers in the world. He's definitely got the physical skills there. So I think I read that he's expected to come up to the main roster next year, and then they're going to have like a training facility out by him where he's at school or something to that effect. So they're going to try and like kind of bring him up to speed. It might be rough at first, but I think the day may come when he could definitely be impressing us. So what do you think about Stevenson and kind of his potential, I guess?
This is a very big get for WWE, and I'm excited to see where he takes his career. Obviously, he revealed it's going to be a 3-year deal full-time that kicks in at the end of his college career. I think the sky's the limit for this guy. I think he definitely has the capability to be. I know people have compared him to Kurt Angle. I think he could be even further and possibly be like a Brock Lesnar type guy. I really think he's that big of a deal, and I think if he puts his mind in the right place, I think he's going to be. It's going to be very good. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think he's definitely got the tools. I think he's got the physical skills you need, and obviously that background speaks for itself. And I think WWE's got great trainers, and then they're going to help be. That's the best way you could possibly kind of break into business like that. So, definitely there are plenty of examples of that amateur background making a big difference. Now to pointing that out and saying that Gable is also the I'm not sure he's talking about Chad Gable or Gable Stevenson, I imagine, as a blue chipper for sure. And there's a number of things you could do with him. I'll put him with the academy. As we were talking about Chad Gable here, I think that'd be a pretty fun fit. In theory, maybe even if they can get Kurt Angle back and mentor him, that'd be pretty darn cool on paper. Yeah, I think it's a very, very good thing, especially just in the general sense that, I mean, I'm not going to get in the weeds here, but AEW has been getting a lot of buzz, all these acquisitions, and Gable Stevenson quickly became like one of these big, not free agents, because he could have gone anywhere. Like there was interest in UFC, MMA, even the NFL, I think was interested in at one point. So nobody knew what he was really going to do, and he chose WWE because he's a big fan. He's talking about how he thinks he'll be a Paul Heyman guy. I think that could be something as well. Kind of recreating history with Heyman and Brock Lesnar there. That could be something pretty fun. But yeah, it's a big get where it's like it still kind of shows WWE is or very much is a destination. So I'm excited to see what he does. I think he's got a lot of potential, and that's still a little bit ways away here. But the day will be here before we know it, where he will be presumably on our screens. So we'll be able to see what he's got. With that here, John, all things being equal, we got Big E winning the title tonight. We've got a WWE title match. We got a US title match. We got Alexa Bliss bringing out Charlie. And otherwise not the most eventful Raw, but I think definitely bookended by a fun opening segment and then Big E winning the title in the end, along with some other things. Karrion Kross actually having a good promo for once, so that was pretty nice to see. All these put together, I thought it was a pretty darn good show, especially carried by, admittedly, the imperfect ending, but a good ending nonetheless. What would you think? Kind of the overall thoughts and your rating for the show?
Oh boy, I'm gonna go with a 7.25 out of 10 tonight. I thought the Big E moment was clearly the best part of the night. I think it got the best reaction of the night. But the rest of the show, I mean, you got kind of a lackluster build, the same old, same old. I really want the draft to get here.
Oh, big time. Big time. Yeah, that we are we're painfully close. We still got a couple weeks to go here, but before we know it, it'll be here, and I very much hope it'll be kind of a reshuffling of the deck as it should be. But in the meantime, definitely, I would say tonight was a good, again, however long it lasts, who knows, but it was a good way to kind of just shake it up and, again, add some new energy and new life to Raw in general here. DJ Cassidy giving it a 10 out of 10. Very, very nice there. Friend of the show, Nando, of a 7.5 dog. I feel like he's been giving us a lot of those lately. Real Taker Sandra was a solid 7.3, much better than last week. 8.5 from Herman Takar. 7.5 from Jesse Mata. Another comment saying it was better than last week from Steven Chambers with a 7.5. Nesha Kirsten gave it a 9 out of 10 there. and we'll rock with a 9.10, or maybe 9 out of 10. I want to rate it highly because I really did like the Big E cash in, and kind of I think people seem in a seemingly kind of rough range with Gavin with a 7.5 here as well. Hopefully the draft will change the storylines, and I would agree. From my gut instinct, it was an 8.5, and it's high, but it's very much carried by Big E winning. As imperfect as it was, I liked it a lot. It literally brought me to tears. It was fun. It was good. It warmed my heart. It was good stuff. For a show that has not done that for me for a while, that's a very, very good thing. I like the US title match. I'm very much on board with Alexa Bliss and Charlotte. Raw's doing good things. It's definitely we had a rough period there early in the year. I feel we're kind of on a fairly consistent track here by and large, and especially with Big E winning the title, I think things could get even better. And likewise here, talking about that, that kind of rough range, Kevin Taylor with a 7.7. So a fairly good show, and admittedly, Big E winning the title definitely threw a wrench in what we thought we could expect. Now tomorrow night, we have no idea what to expect because the new NXT will arrive. We're going to have a lot to talk about, and I don't want to get into it right now. I want to leave you guys waiting on that one. You'll have to tune in. We're going to talk about Johnny Gargano's contract expiring. My gosh, Papa John, don't go. We're going to talk about Samoa Joe relinquishing the NXT title. Heartbreaking stuff there, my gosh. And of course, the headline story, and among those, that it will be the new NXT, and we don't know what to expect there. And on top of that, the Index wedding. My gosh, I hope that all works out, and I am very, very nervous to see how that goes. But it will be interesting at the very least, and also an NXT Women's Championship match as well. Thank you for reminding me, Steven Chambers, between Raquel Gonzalez and Frankie. It should be a very good show, and we will crown a new NXT champion. And as Real Taker Sanchez saying very, very politically, all eyes will be on NXT 2.0, and I would agree. It's going to be good. No, I can't even say that. It's going to be something. It's going to be exciting. There will be a lot to talk about either way, so I'm looking forward to it. John, you'll not be here to talk about it on Tuesday night, live here on WrestleZone for our YouTube and Facebook, and as well as our Twitter page here. So make sure to tune in because, so much to talk about. Otherwise, the Dynamite Dudes Attitude cover all things AEW. Robert DeVries and I will be here on Saturday to talk about Friday Night SmackDown, and that's reminded me I got to get the new logo for NXT because it's a whole new color scheme. Gotta get that. Get the ball rolling on that one. But otherwise, a great stream of interviews constantly coming at you guys. My interview with Big Damo, Killian Dame, went out today. Make sure to check that out. I recently interviewed former Ring of Honor World Champion Matt Taven. Bill Pearson recently interviewed CM Punk and Paul White. Make sure to check those out. Lots of good stuff. All of it available on all of our platforms: SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever it may be. We've got you covered. So leave a like and subscribe. So and remember, whether you loved Biggie's cash in or if you were a little more conscious of the flaws, we try to do one thing here above all others, and that is what, John? We do the one thing here above all others, no matter what.
Enjoy wrestling.
Indeed. Thanks for listening, everybody.